Let's ride. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Moto Mission Adventure Podcast, where we're telling stories of adventure and adventurous lives. I'm really excited about this guest. A lot of people have been asking about her. They want to know what she thinks, what her life is like. It's my wife. Her name is Auny. So we're going to give you a little bit of insight on what it's like to kind of peek into our lives and kind of hear our thoughts on adventure and how we do things. And so here it is. This is me and my wife, Auny. This is my wife, Auny, who has been with me for many years, traveling the country and traveling the world for many years. And Auny, normally you're on that side of the camera, but today you're here because we are going to answer questions that you are getting constantly. Listeners and people that are watching are asking several questions. I brought some to you, but you also wrote some down and brought them to the podcast today. We're going to get into those in just a moment, but tell us, first of all, how long have we been married? Tell me.
24 years.
Yep, been married 24 years, and we've been traveling all over the world together.
That's right. It's been an adventure.
How many countries have we been to?
Over 30 countries.
Do you have a favorite?
I love Greece. I think that's probably my favorite, but they're all great in different ways, you know? I just love going new places.
Some are better than others. Some are really beautiful and they
Yes.
stand out. For me, Ireland, Greece, America. Honestly, it's hard to beat what the United States has.
National parks are like my favorite thing in the world.
What's your favorite national park?
Well, I think I like Arches the best, but hiking to Delicate Arch is amazing. But we were just in Zion. We did the Narrows. That was fun.
Yeah, and let me explain the Narrows.
Explain it.
You're walking down a trail that turns into a river,
Yes.
and you're walking in between huge canyon walls, hundreds of feet in the air, and you're walking upstream
In
a
the-
river, not
yeah.
crossing a river. You're
No.
walking the river
Through it.
for miles.
Yes. Like you have to, there's rocks down on the bottom you can't see because you're in the water. I mean, the water sometimes came up to my chest. That's how high
Yeah.
it came. And then sometimes most of the time it was more shallow, but still there was all those rocks that you had to maneuver and walk through anyway.
We didn't know what we were getting into.
We did not, but it was fun.
Yeah.
It was an adventure as always. I love Glacier National Park and Yellowstone, all those. They're all great.
So you're a bit of an adventure junkie.
For sure, which is different than an adrenaline junkie.
How so?
Well, like I get the same high from trying a new food as I would from riding a roller coaster or whatever. So
the novelty of finding something new, such as a new food or
that's my biggest thing.
Okay.
That's what I like the most. So yeah, you would be both. You love adventure, but you like adrenaline too.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. And what is your ultimate idea of adventure? What would it be?
Going to a new place and experiencing new foods and meeting new people and all that stuff. That's the ideal.
And if you had, this is actually a question that I want to know that
Okay.
I wasn't prepared to ask you this, but I'm going to ask anyway. What is your number one adventure of all time? I know that is a very difficult question to ask, and it may take you a minute to think about it, but the number one adventure memory of your whole life, based on all the countries you've been to and all the 25 years of traveling with me, what's the one adventure that maybe sticks out the most, or it has the most that's the memory you kind of when I say ultimate adventure, this one's the first one that pops in your mind. Do you have one?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm listening. I'm actually really curious about this.
Yeah, it's got to be Alaska. The ice road in Alaska.
Okay.
Because
tell this story. Tell
Okay.
the story. We're going to start by just jumping into this crazy, crazy story. One of the this is one of the most bananas stories that we have, right?
Right. Well, so the natives in Alaska, they're off the road system, right? And so you can't get to them unless it's hard to get to them. And you cannot go into the community unless you're invited in.
Right.
Right? So we were invited in because we were going to do a magic show. And so they invited us in, and it was in December, right?
Yep.
And so they said, hey, we're going to take the ice road, which means I thought it was going to be completely frozen. It was not, right? It's like...
Yeah, so what an ice road is basically...
a river.
When the river freezes over enough where you can drive a car on it, then they call it an ice road.
Yes, but this, like, the river's still running under it. You know, like, I guess there's a block of ice on top, and the river is still running under it. Well, it had been an unseasonably warm December for them.
It was early December, and it wasn't quite...
It wasn't quite frozen enough.
It wasn't quite frozen enough.
Right.
And we were one of the first cars, trucks, whatever, to test it, which is, y'all, that is a weird feeling, okay? A weird feeling.
It is. So
let me just to set this up.
Yeah.
We're there to do a show for villages up in the Arctic Circle, which require us to drive a big four-wheel drive Suburban down a hill and onto a frozen river, which is only partially frozen.
Frozen-ish.
Like a few inches on the top was frozen. And then drive 20 miles one way and then go up a bank and then do the shows and then hit repeat that night. So that's the story, but tell us the experience.
On the way there, it was great. It was really fun, and we were just like, this is so cool. And we went in like the 2 hours of daylight to get there of the whole day. It was only a couple hours, but we went during that time on the way there, and we do the show, and the people, I just love the people.
Yeah,
it was
great.
Fantastic. What a wonderful day. But we start heading back. It's completely dark. And we're heading back, and he's trying to find the path, right?
So basically, we kind of laid down breadcrumbs.
On his GPS, right?
On the more hardened surface of the river. But the tide had come in while we were in the village.
Right.
And we go back, and now there's... like the river looks different. We're seeing water on top of it in portions and cracks, and we're just like, what?
And it's completely dark.
Oh, yeah.
So this guy that was driving us, he had lived in Alaska for a long time, and he was a pilot.
Yeah, 40 years.
40 years, right? Well, at one point, we're going through, and water starts coming over the hood.
Yeah, so there's water over the ice, and we're like, how do we do this?
Yeah.
And you know, at one point we get out and we check, and there's cracks in the ice, and the water's like coming up through onto the road. So as we go forward, tell us what happens.
Well, at one point, the water was coming up over the hood. You had your hand out, the window was down. I was sitting in the middle. The driver was sitting right here, and you were sitting on the passenger side. And then we had three guys in the back seat behind us. But you had your flashlight out the window because the headlights were underwater. Yeah. And that was great because he could see, and we got through that patch, and we were just like all celebrating. Oh, we did it, you know. And then we keep going. Well, then it really happened. It cracked, and it went to a whole side went down in the water, right?
Yeah. So the Suburban that we were in knifes into the water. The ice cracks and the truck goes in the water. We're sitting at about a 45-degree angle. We're taking on water. It's coming into the vehicle. We're freaking out. We don't know what to do. I've got the window down. I'm about to bail out because the thing's about to go under.
You were grabbing my hand. You held my hand like I could tell we were about to get out. But we knew that if we got wet, we only had about 7 minutes to live.
Yeah, because when it's 0 degrees outside and you get wet with the cold water, you're going to die in no time.
So I had this going through my head, and then the pilot guy who was driving, who was super calm this whole time, super capable, he starts going, no, 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 and he's freaking out. Yeah. So I'm like, this is it. I just thought it was it. This is how we were going to go. But I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden, it just, because the wheels were spinning.
Oh, he's got it floored. There's water going everywhere. Tires are spinning.
We're at an angle, it's like the driver's side is in the water and the other side had no traction, but somehow it just got righted and back up onto the ice.
It kind of doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
We really can't explain how it happened. But somehow the vehicle went from a 45-degree angle with 2 wheels on the ice and 2 wheels underwater and us taking on water. Somehow something happened where the vehicle ended up crawling back up onto the ice. It's kind of a miracle. It's kind of craziness, but we don't understand it. I guess God moved the thing for us. We don't understand.
Maybe some angels.
We don't know what happened.
Let's just put that back on course. But and we got back. And we celebrated. But I love going to Alaska. I love meeting the people, and the elders are the ones that asked you in. And one time I asked, well, who are the elders? And they said, the older people in the community. They looked at me like, you're crazy.
Right. So they invited us in, and we've been many years.
Oh, yeah.
And we love going up there. And then there's 2 Alaskas. I guess you could argue there's more, but I was going to say there's the summer Alaska and then the winter Alaska.
Sure.
And then there's also the road system Alaska and the off the road. Yeah. They call it the bush.
Yes.
And it is drastically different in each of those scenarios. So, okay, so that's your ultimate adventure because it's beautiful. The people are great. We ate strange food. What's the strangest food you ate while we were there?
I ate whale blubber and seal oil. Yes.
You ate whale blubber and seal oil. How did they cook the whale blubber for you? I know, but I'm asking so everyone else is benefiting.
I can't remember, honestly. Do you know?
It was raw.
Oh, yeah. People ask me, what does it taste like? And I was like, it tastes like nothing you've ever tasted. It how most things you're like, it tastes like chicken. This did not. It tasted like nothing I've ever tasted ever.
Exactly. Whale blubber is the most interesting thing I've ever had.
Different.
And then the seal oil, we'll just wrap this thought up here, but the seal oil was seal meat that was in the fat of the seal in a jar with some seaweed and some herbs, and then that fat renders the meat, turns it into like this oil, almost looks like olive oil with beef jerky inside.
Yeah.
And it was a delicacy. And so we were served that, and it was like a special thing. And then they topped it off with, what was the pie? What was it called?
It was blueberry, but it was like, what do they call it? Tundra blueberry pie.
Tundra blueberry pie.
That's the best blueberries I've ever had.
It was really wonderful.
It was really good.
So you're an adventure junkie.
For sure.
So your life is, you spend, for as long as we've been married, you've been on the road about 300 days a year, away from home, traveling with me.
That's right.
We travel together. We've been to all these different countries, and now doing this YouTube show where we travel with a Sprinter van and motorcycle, and people have lots of questions, and they ask me all the time. I get comments, I get emails, I get people like, okay, what does your wife do? What tell me about your life. What's going on? So I want you to answer some of these questions.
Sure. Well, what I do is while you are riding your motorcycle on the dirt roads, I ride on the highways. And so I just meet up with you at night, right? So sometimes I even thought this. I thought I'm going to have a ton of extra time because you guys you'll go for 6 to 8 hours in the day. And I only have to drive, probably just driving time, a few hours. But there's more that comes to it. First of all, I have to get fuel. I need to get ice. I need to get supplies. I need to find out where we're going to stay that night because I usually do it day of or maybe just a day or two ahead of time because you don't know what's going to happen, right? You may need maintenance, bike maintenance or whatever. And so I have to do all that. I have to do all that research and that kind of thing. The other thing is I do my own adventures. So, if there's something there to see, I'm going to see it. If there is a national park within 30 minutes of my route, I am going. That's my favorite thing.
What are some of the things that you've seen on the past, I don't know, in the past year or so, some of the parks or some of the interesting sites along the way that you've seen by yourself?
By myself. I've gone to the Biltmore a couple of times, toured it.
What's the Biltmore so people understand?
The Biltmore is a mansion in North Carolina.
Not just any mansion.
By Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, right? Made it or whatever. It's huge.
Isn't it like the largest property or mansion in the country?
In the U.S., in the country,
yeah,
yes.
I don't even remember
it's huge.
Figures, the stats of how big it is, but it's just enormous.
It's enormous. And they also have this other whole building that has art that's like... what is that called?
Art gallery kind of thing, or what?
It's more of the experience. What is that called?
Like an immersive experience?
Immersive art. So I always go and see that for sure.
Yeah.
So the second time I didn't tour the mansion because I had already done it, but I went and saw the immersive art. It's really cool. I've seen that. I've gone to a couple national parks, a few without you, because it just didn't go on your on your path, but it went on mine, so it was awesome.
And so at the end of the night, after me riding, anywhere from 7 to 10 hours, sometimes more, but we'll meet up at night and we'll just kind of trade stories.
Right. Yeah, I meet people too. Meet some people along the way, but yeah, it's really, really great. I love it.
So you travel by yourself in the Sprinter van all day. Do you get bored? Do you what do you listen to podcasts? What do you do?
I actually don't. I just use that time to pray or think or dream or that kind of stuff. I listen to music sometimes, but that's about it.
You enjoy the solitude?
I do. And the thing about life on the road, I actually like the inconvenience of it.
Okay, explain.
Okay, well, you know this, they might not know this, but at home, if I'm at home more than 2 weeks, I'm climbing the walls. I gotta get out of there. You can go a little bit longer, but for me, I'm like, I gotta go.
But after 2 weeks of us staying at home, I start to hear about it. It's like, let's go somewhere.
I get antsy. And I think part of that is because everything is so convenient. It's right there. It's, my bathroom is 2 feet away from my bed. Whereas when we're camping in the van, it's like when you get up, you walk, I walk to the bathroom and then I have to get my toothbrush out. And I know that sounds funny, but I enjoy the inconvenience. I like that time because it just gives me more idle time, in your mind.
I think this is contrary to what most people would expect because I think most people crave comfort. And
I don't.
That's strange for most people, I'm sure, listen to this.
Well, it just gets a little too boring when everything is right there. Like for me, having to figure out where am I going, where is the closest bathroom? How am I going to do this?
So even that is a little bit of a mystery or an adventure in itself.
It is. And you have to learn to adapt. And I like that. I like to adapt.
I haven't thought about that for myself, but I'm going to think about that. That's interesting. Let's get into some of these questions, though, because more questions, because people are fascinated by some of these things that you like your perspectives.
Okay.
I know you have some questions that you've collected.
Yes.
What are some of the questions that you're hearing?
I think the number one question is people ask me if I ride a bike, if I ever ride.
Well, the answer is yes.
Well, I did for like a minute.
So, when we got married, we bought motorcycles, and that was going to be our hobby together, and that lasted for a year.
For me, it only lasted a year. Well, I just, you were just like, I really want to get a bike, and, this helps me relax. And I was like, anything that can get your mind relaxed, because you were just you're always thinking about work and that kind of thing. So I thought, well, I will be a supportive wife and get a dirt bike. I got a little Honda 100, right?
Yeah.
But I had never ridden dirt bikes. Where you grew up riding them, So I remember I did one wheelie the whole time. It was day one. I did not mean to do it. Freaked me out. I was like, what am I doing? I guess I don't know what I did. And then I remember, like, on my third day of riding, we went to that trail in Arkansas.
I think we were in Mena, Arkansas.
We were.
And the trail that we went to was closed. It was
yes.
Wolfpen Gap, I think is what it was called. But it was closed because of the they had some sort of storm that winter, and all the trees were across the.
Yeah.
But it was closed, so we were like, well, man, we came all the way here, so we went on this alternate trail.
It was hard.
It was terrible.
It was like riding up a creek bed, I think.
It was all baby head rocks.
Yes.
They call them baby heads because they're like the size of a baby head, and they're just like little round rocks, and they were just everywhere. And I pushed you too hard. That was my mistake, because I was like, we're here, we're going to ride, let's just go. And it was over your head. It was too much too soon.
It was. And then there was this cliff on one side. So if I made a mistake, I'm going to really pay for it. I'm going to go. And then I remembered you saying, if you go through a water, you said, don't stop in the middle of the water.
Right.
So I'm hearing that, and I took it to, like, seriously, I don't know what the word is, because we go through our first creek bed and I just pin it. And I'm going so fast that when I go up the bank, it goes straight up in the air. The bike does. It's a light bike. It goes straight up in the air, and I bail. Well, the bike goes into a tree. I do not know how, but it gets stuck in a tree. And I'm like, Brock, my bike is stuck in a tree. You had to go get it down. And I think that happened another time, because I remember saying, Brock, my bike's stuck in a tree again. So that happened at least twice. So anyway, I admire women that ride bikes. Really, I do. I think that it's not safe for me to do it.
You're cracking me up right now, because I remember, it would be a creek crossing, and some of them would have like kind of steep banks on the other end.
Yeah,
you would just twist it, and the thing would just loop out and into a tree, and you would like ghost ride it sometimes, because you would bail off because you were about to be like on your back, and you would just bail off, and the next thing
it's in a tree.
Yeah. So your coordination is maybe not the best.
Not so good. Yeah.
Gosh. Okay, so let's finish the question, do you ride? The reason I said yes is because you ride on the back of me.
Love riding on the back.
Whether it's the Harley or maybe the KTM adventure bike.
Yeah.
You ride on the back, and do you love that?
I love it. I love riding on the back.
Yeah.
I think it is so calming. I mean, we laugh, but I've actually fallen asleep on the back of the Harley.
Yeah.
The wind kind of keeps your head up where it doesn't completely drop. But yeah.
Yeah. So that's one question. Do you ride?
Right.
What's another question that you're hearing?
Well, I hear the one of what you do, and I think we answered that. I go and see things and get supplies and that sort of thing. And then another question is, people ask if it makes me nervous being your wife, basically.
And why would they ask you that?
Yeah, whether it's what you do now, riding, your bike, or you do stunts in the show. You would do stunts. I remember people would ask me, what do you think about him doing an underwater escape?
Yeah.
And it's true. It's not just that you are a daring person, you are, but you also are always there to help people. It's crazy. I've seen you rescue, this is conservative number, maybe 7 people on 6 different occasions out of the water, out of some kind of water. I think that's a conservative number. But, like in Ecuador. This happened in Ecuador. What year was that?
I don't know, 2010.
I don't know. And this was the second or third time I saw you rescue people out of the ocean. But rescue someone. We're sitting on the beach in Ecuador, and this is what I see. There's a kid out in the water, and I guess he starts yelling for help or something, and we all realize, everybody on the beach realizes that he's drowning, he needs help. And they all do this. Everybody does this. I see it every time. They all look out of the water, they look at each other, they just kind of look around, and by the time they look back at the water, you're already in it. So it's like everybody's kind of thinking about, what should we do? And you don't think, you don't hesitate. You're already in the water. And then sure enough, a few minutes later, I see you and you're carrying this little Ecuadorian boy up out of the water. Everybody comes running and the people are crying and they're all whatever. It was cool. And then that night you were like famous because in Ecuador you stand out a lot being 6'4" and blonde hair with blue eyes, and they called you Baywatch. Remember that?
Yep, I do remember. That was a wild time. So people ask you if you are worried that if you get
right. And so I don't really. I think there's a couple reasons for that. One is, I have a lot of different faults. I do. But fear, I have a lot of problems, the issues, but fear is not really one of them. I don't know. It's not that I try not to be fearful, but like worst case scenarios, like these crazy things, they just don't pop into my head. I don't know. I don't really think about it. So I think maybe the Lord made me that way because he knew I'd be married to you. So he was like, let's just make that easy for them. Take that away, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, you're pretty good. You're a pretty good wife. Yep, you're my favorite.
Yeah, it's the only one you have, so I'm the only one. And then the other thing is, we've had a lot of near-death experiences because when you live a different life that's not predictable, not like you're going to the same place every day, it's just like things happen, right? So we've had lots of near-death experiences, right?
A lot of close calls, a lot of near misses.
That's what I would, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of things
near
that have
misses.
been, really, really crazy. So, you want to give one example? I don't want to put you on the, well, I guess you already gave one example.
We talked about the ice road. We almost got kidnapped in Mexico.
Yeah, that was a wild one.
That was crazy.
And maybe, do you have one other story you want to kind of wrap that idea up with? Which, by the way, we are currently in Las Vegas in a hotel room on the 14th floor.
Yeah.
And as soon as we started this podcast, they decided to set off alarms and
do some kind of
construction
work next door.
So I'm hoping that it's not as loud. There it is. I don't know what's happening.
I don't know what that is.
They started a construction project right about the time we hit record, so.
It was very quiet, and then.
Yeah, I think that, and that's the part of this podcast, is that we're going to do it in different places. This podcast is a mobile studio. We're taking it with us in different places on the road. And, it may be outdoors or it may be, in a random hotel room, but it's going to be an adventure in itself. Like, you're going with us on this podcast. You're going with us.
That's
in the
right.
same way that the YouTube channel, you're kind of being able to kind of peek into our lives through that lens of the camera and kind of see different parts of the world and the trail and the motorcycle that we're riding and the point of view and all that. That's the point. We want you to experience adventure in the same way that we are experiencing adventure. And the best way we can do that is strap cameras to us and go.
Sure. I just heard a big rumble, by the way. I think they exploded something.
It could have been an earthquake.
I don't know. That's true. So
There's no telling.
We're talking about, we have been through a couple of earthquakes.
Okay, earthquake story.
So there was one when we had our RV.
Yeah, we were living in like this, it's called a toter home. It's like a big motor home on a Freightliner chassis with a big trailer. We were 64 feet long. It was like a semi-truck and trailer. We lived in that for a few years.
So we had our bed was over the cab.
Right.
And you were closest to the wall, and I was over by the rest of the living quarters. And there was this, I can't remember where we were.
We were in Wyoming.
Well, Wyoming, yeah. Pulled over on the side of the road, sleeping one night, and there was I didn't know this till later, but it was an earthquake, knocked me off the bed. Like I completely, luckily I just landed. It was shaking so bad I knocked off the bed. You slept right through it.
Yeah, I slept through all of them.
You didn't even know.
The earthquake we had in Las Vegas that year.
Yes, I heard like glass breaking.
Everything's
We
falling
were
off
in
the
a
walls.
hotel. Yep. I came out in the hall, opened the door. People were kind of coming out. And we were all like, I think we're okay. You slept through that one too.
Right through it.
So I don't know.
Tired.
Yeah. But those weren't really near death. We were talking about near death experiences.
Yeah, well, the point is we've had a lot of those. Is there another question? I don't.
That's the main question.
I don't remember.
I wanted to get into that more.
I don't remember if there was any other questions that we need to cover before we.
I don't think so, unless you can think of one. I was going to go into some of those near-death experiences.
Yeah, so I don't think there's any others. So we can go ahead and jump in that and kind of dive into that. You obviously have something on your mind, so let's just go there. So I'm gonna let you lead it.
Okay. Well,
I've already forgotten the question, but yes.
Near-death experiences.
Okay, yeah.
I think we were talking about how it is kind of dangerous because it's just a different lifestyle.
Yeah, and I think, okay, so here,
maybe
this is how some people would ask the question is, do you have fear? Are you scared?
Right.
Of me being out there, whether it was in Ukraine during the war, riding a motorcycle, or riding across the, desert in Utah, by myself, or like the question sometimes is like, are you scared? Is there a fear that you have? And I kind of live by this idea of less fear, more adventure. Mm-hmm. But I want you to speak to these ideas and kind of speak to the listeners, like this whole idea of fear and near death and all of these different things that you obviously have some things on your mind. So I'm going to just let you run with it.
Okay. Well, I think the biggest thing for me is just my faith. That's my biggest thing. For me, my near-death, I've had a lot of near-death experiences just with my health. So I have this rare disorder. It's a blood disorder that is very rare, but it's basically like I have a blood vessel that'll act up every now and then, and it'll burst in my stomach. And it's not like a blood leak. It's like a faucet. So it's basically like I bleed internally. And we don't know when it happens, and we don't know when it's going to stop. So every time it happens, it's like, oh, this may be the time that I just bleed out. Yeah. And they usually they'll give me a blood transfusion, and usually it's okay. But
you've had multiple blood transfusions over the years.
I have.
More than a person should have. But
sure.
But it was in order to save your life.
Right. And it happened to work. But when you're laying in a hospital bed, thinking, will I make it or will I not? It gives you time to just think. And I think that I've dealt with death a little earlier than most people. Most people don't start thinking about it until they become old.
Because you've been faced with the reality of it.
Exactly.
So you've had to process.
I've had to process it. In fact, there was one time, the last time, I feel like we have kind of a handle on it now, my health, to some degree. I haven't had an incident since 2018, which is great. But in 2018, I went to the ER. This was kind of crazy. I went to the ER, and I was having this, I knew what it was. I was like, hey, I'm losing blood. They tested my blood. They took my blood, and then when they did, I passed out. And they didn't have anything connected to me yet, and when I pass out, it's like, it's more than just fainting. It's like crazy pass out. And this particular time, it was weird. It was like I was all of a sudden in a field looking for Jesus. I was just like, I felt like I was kind of on the other side. You
felt like you had passed from this life to the other side.
I did.
You were in a meadow.
I was in this meadow, and I'm just everything is just calm, peaceful, perfect. And I was just, where's Jesus? That was my question. Like, where's Jesus? I think I just was like, I'm in heaven. So where's Jesus? I'm looking. And then I came to, and it was only a few seconds, but it was really dramatic. Like I kind of came to, and again, they didn't have anything connected to me. And the nurse, in a very calm way, was kind of freaking out. And she like attached, some things to me to see if my heart was beating and that kind of stuff. So, and I kept going in and out of consciousness for like 10 minutes. So she kept kind of like patting me on the face, like, stay with me, Mm-hmm. But because I wasn't connected, I'm not sure if my heart stopped or not. You know what I mean? Like we had no monitors on me yet because I was just in the ER, but, it was actually like scary, but also calming because I was in that moment. I was so at peace, like I know where I'm going. And I've also come to deal with, in Psalms, it talks about he knows the days that you will live. You know what I mean? He knows how long, and I just believe in his sovereignty. I believe in his providence, and when he chooses to take me, to heaven is when he chooses to take me to heaven. And same with you. I'd be sad. For sure. I'd be devastated if something happened to you, and you would with me. But we would also be happy that the other person was in heaven, Yeah,
and so because of there's a freedom.
There is.
Because fear paralyzes some people, and that it paralyzes them and prevents them from doing things and actually living and living in the way that they should be living, or in a way that's fulfilling. And for me, that's the whole idea, is like experiencing like an adventure. Like life is full of adventure. Go experience that.
Yeah.
And fear oftentimes prevents people from doing that. And we've talked about this on the podcast. We've talked about this obviously many times with different individuals, but fear prevents us from living that life that we are designed for. And so less fear, more adventure. That's what this thing is all about. So what else? Do you have any more thoughts on that?
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Less fear, more adventure. Just do it.
Yeah. What are you excited about next?
I'm excited about all the national parks we're going to go to soon.
Yeah.
On our ride.
Yeah.
We're going to Banff.
Yep.
I'm really excited about Banff.
Yep. I am excited about these things too. So,
yeah.
And is there anything you would give the listeners, just final words?
Well, I met a guy. I think I had a Yellowstone shirt on because that's my wardrobe. Pretty much, is just T-shirts from places I've been. Right. And jeans. I'm a jeans girl.
Souvenir T-shirt.
I get a souvenir T-shirt everywhere I go. Pretty much. Yeah. That's me. So I'm wearing a Yellowstone T-shirt, and this man, when I was in Florida the other day visiting my parents, and this man was talking to me, and he was like, "Oh, Yellowstone, that's on my bucket list." And he was in his 70s for sure. And I just thought, man, if that's on his bucket list, he better go, because that bucket's draining. I mean, Sure. So I just would encourage everybody, just do it. Go. Don't be like, someday I'm going to go to Yellowstone. It's on my bucket list. Do it now. Do it.
Right.
Just make it happen.
Yep. Plan it. Go grab the calendar and just put a date on it. We're going.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, that's awesome. Hopefully this podcast with Auny today has answered some questions. Hopefully it's inspired you in one way or another. And hopefully this is giving you a little bit more insight into who we are as a couple and what we do and how we think and our perspectives on the world and that sort of thing. So we want to hear from you. Please comment. Please, let us know your thoughts on all of this. And we want you to continue to be a part of this. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And we have a lot more adventure coming.